that is our goal, to bring authors and illustrators in and get them in front of people and be around for them, to have them be around to answer questions. So, Lois Lowry, author of 37 books, I think. Oh, she's shrugging her shoulders. 37-ish, let's just say. Newbery Award winner for Number of the Stars and for The Giver, which turned into a trilogy, and she does have a, I think what you're calling a companion book, perhaps, that might be Gabe's story. She just keeps shrugging her shoulders. So I think we're actually going to learn a lot from Lois herself when she stands up here. And has been writing for all of her life, but didn't start, or didn't get her first book published until, I think your bio says 40. So there's hope for all of us, is the way that I look at that. And it's a thrill for us to have her here. We've been excited for months now, and that she's finally here. I can't wait to move forward. And I just have to tell one little short story. We were emailing back and forth. I think it was yesterday, the day before, and she said, "Hey, let's give each other cell phone while we're traveling, just in case there's anything that happens." So I thought, oh, I'm going to be smart. I'm going to put it into my phone right now because she gave me hers. And so I sent hers, and yesterday Jeannie Edkin, who is in the back there, who arranged all of this, we were heading out to run errands and everything, all Festival of the Book all the time yesterday, and my phone rings. I'm sort of holding the dolly with the books, and I'm like, oh, my phone, and I'm like, oh, it's Lois Lowry. and other librarians, we were in the back, they went, oh, Lois is calling you? Is she here? And so everybody just perked up. So I know that's how we all feel. And I'm going to quit talking now, and I'm going to bring up Lois Lowry.
Thank you. Somebody's going to turn the lights down because I brought stuff to show you. I think it's always more fun to see things while somebody is talking. And as you know, I'm also speaking at 4, and I was up, since I live on the East Coast, I was up very early this morning, and tinkering with all these pictures and putting them back and forth and deciding which were more for grown-ups and which were more for kids. And now I've forgotten what I've ended up with on either one of these. So it will be revealed shortly to me as well as to you. I do know what the first picture is because when she was setting this up, it came up on the screen. And there it is. And that is, of course, me when I was 8 years old, and my brother when he was 2. And the reason I started with that is because very often people ask me if I always wanted to be a writer. And it is true that from the very earliest time when I started to read, I fell in love with stories and began writing myself when I was a child, that I never wanted to be anything else. But I specifically put this in because at this age there was one little incident that remains in my memory, which I will tell to you now. Okay, you can see there I am, 8 years old. My brother is 2. And one day, we lived in a small town in Pennsylvania. One day I walked into my bedroom, and my little brother had gotten into my desk. Now my desk was then, and still is, very important to me, and it's filled with desk stuff that I treasure. Same stuff when I was 8 that I have now when I'm 73. All those pens and pencils and markers now. They weren't invented when I was a kid, but in those days, crayons, paper of all sorts, glue and paste and rubber bands and desk stuff. You know what that is. So I went in my bedroom, and my brother, wearing his little blue overalls, had my desk drawers open, and he had dumped all my stuff on the floor. I was very angry. And in my rage at my little brother, I picked up a tube of cement. This is the stuff we must never sniff, right? Airplane glue. And I smeared it. I squeezed the tube and smeared it on the back of my little brother's hand. And then he and I both looked at it in amazement because it dried instantly. and it formed a kind of shiny crust on the back of his little hand. And I got over being mad at him because this was so interesting. And then I tried to remove it, and I couldn't. It was stuck there forever, probably. Okay, time passed, and it's now the same day, but later in the same day, and my mother asked if I would take my brother for a walk in his stroller. Now, I was the kind of kid, and all writers, I think, did this when they were young and probably still do it, as I do, that as we're living our lives and doing things day to day, we're also telling the story of them. So that as I'm talking to you here, another part of me is also saying she was standing in front of the room looking at me. And that was true of me at that time. And so when my mother said, "Would you take Johnny out for a walk?" I was thinking, the little girl was very helpful to her mother. Unless I was mad at my mother that day, and then I would have been thinking, the little girl was always forced to work for her cruel mother. But anyway, I went to take my brother for a walk in his stroller, and I remember, I mean, this is a different kind of stroller from what you see now, wicker. Anybody here old enough to remember a wicker stroller? A little buckled harness around my brother so he wouldn't fall out. He's wearing his little blue corduroy jacket and a cap that buckled under his chin. He was very cute, as you can see. And I'm walking down the street with my brother in this small, safe college town. And coming in the opposite direction, I saw two what I thought of as old ladies. And they were 50, but to me they were old ladies, walking toward me. I didn't know them, but I could see them coming toward me, and I could see that their faces changed and turned into the kind of faces old ladies have when they see a cute baby in a stroller. They start smiling. And they approached, and they stopped, and I stopped. And they said, "Oh, isn't he cute? Is that your little brother?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "Aren't you a good girl to take your little brother for a walk?" And I smiled and nodded. And then one of these ladies reached down and picked up my brother's hand. And she said to the woman she was with, "This child's been badly burned." Well, I knew what I should have said. I should have said, "No, I put glue on his hand." But the reason I remember this moment is because telling the story originally was the little girl was taking her baby brother for a walk. But suddenly, when it became the little girl was taking the badly burned baby for a walk, it was more interesting. And that's what writers do. They make things more interesting by choosing the words that will make the reader or the listener or these two old ladies become attentive and alert and interested in what's going on. So I nodded. Yes, badly burned. Now, if I were writing this in a story, I would have to come up with an ending, and there isn't any ending. Ending. I would have to make something up because I never saw those women again. They didn't rush home and call a hotline for child abuse. They walked on, I walked on, and that's all I remember of the incident, except that moment when I thought that little girl was taking her badly burned brother for a walk. There he is. Okay, these are my parents being married in 1933. You can see my father is wearing a uniform. That's because he was a military officer. And for that reason, and because of his work, we traveled all my life. And that's why I was born, as you can see, in Honolulu. I've always thought that I was lucky to have been born in a place where literally my first memories are of flowers and rainbows. This is my sister who was 3 years older. I'm 3, she's 6 here. Sorry, we have dirty feet, I think. I had started school, and she would come home every day and teach me what she learned. And thereby she taught me to read when I was 3 years old. And people often ask me if I have memories of one particular teacher, and I always say my sister. I was lucky, too, to have been born into a house that valued books, that had books, a mother who had been a teacher before she married.